All right, those were the top headlines that we're tracking for you at this hour. And now let's talk about the Iran and US narrative at the time of the war. Now, this narrative between US and Iran is heating up. Both sides are engaging in a battle of words to show that they have leverage against each other. President Trump claims Iran is racing against time before its oil storage hits a breaking point. In response, Ghalibaf said that US plan is a losing strategy and warned of crude surging back to 2022 highs of $140 a barrel. President Trump rejected Iran's proposal to open the Strait of Hormuz. He said Iran's oil storage and pipelines are getting close to exploding because the Islamic Republic can't export oil due to the US Hormuz blockade. The president sees continuing the US blockade of Iranian ships in the strait as his primary source of leverage in the war. Trump has claimed that the US has all the cards and can wait out Iran. The blockade of Iranian vessels in Hormuz is America's plan to bleed the Islamic Republic economically. On Monday, US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent had warned that Iran might soon reach its crude oil storage capacity. He said while the surviving IRGC leaders are trapped like drowning rats in a sewage pipe, Iran's creaking oil industry is starting to shut in production thanks to the US blockade. He added, pumping will soon collapse, gasoline shortages in Iran up next. In response to Trump and Bessent, Ghalibaf tweeted, 3 days in, no well exploded, we could extend to 30 and live stream the well here. He said that was the kind of junk advice the US admin gets from people like Bessent, who also pushed the blockade theory and cranked oil up to $120 a barrel. He added, next stop at $140. The issue isn't theory, it's the mindset. Before Bessent's remark on Monday, Iran's parliament speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, in a cryptic message, said, although Trump and his chorus-singing administration claim they have all the cards, Iran too holds quite a leverage. In a tweet, Ghalibaf threatened with symbolic message, asserting that Iran has significant leverage to disrupt global energy markets, countering the US pressure. Ghalibaf used a mathematical formula that showed Iran's potential supply disruption tools versus US demand-side management capabilities. On one hand, Ghalibaf's threat on energy crisis seems real. The over 2 months long West Asia conflict has pushed crude to above $120 per barrel. That's the highest since the Ukraine crisis in 2022. Analysts also aligned with Ghalibaf and bet on oil surging to 2022 highs of $140 a barrel as soon as this week. On the other hand, America's leverage claims seem to be playing out too. Data from Kepler Analytics and Bloomberg showed that Iran is indeed facing storage capacity risk. The analysis showed Iran's storage capacity can accommodate only about 15 to 25 million further barrels of oil. Net flows are currently running between 1 and 1.5 million barrels per day. At that rate, the storage is expected to be filled up in 12 to 25 days. However, Iran has turned to aging tankers as a stopgap. Iran has reportedly revived its 30-year-old tanker, Nasha, to store excess oil at sea. But the shortage of space to store oil is a major issue for Iran. The country would have to begin shutting its wells. However, shutting down oil production is complex and often irreversible, particularly its water injection fields. So the real question is, what can Iran actually do if it runs out of storage space? And for more on this, we are now being joined by Mark Brolin live from London. Mr. Brolin, thank you for joining us on the broadcast today. And firstly, let's talk about this narrative, which is actually heating up with the US and Iran, both of them claiming that they have leverage. But who do you think holds the cards right now?
They do have different kinds of leverage. But then again, at one level, it's not an equal contest. We have the Iranian regime. It has pulled out all the Sorry, lost connection.
Right. I think we have some audio issue there. We'll get back to Mr. Brolin in just a bit, but I think he's back with us. Mr. Brolin, you were talking about which side do you think has the leverage at this point in time as far as oil storage capacity is concerned and the disruption that it has caused across the world?
Yes, I think that it's different kinds of leverage. And if we look at the hard facts, definitely US has the upper hand in one sense, because the Iranian regime has pulled out all the stops and is desperate to cling to power, whereas the mighty US military has only used a few weapons in its toolbox. And if Washington was to decide on a full-scale invasion, as it did in Iraq in 2003, it would be game over for the Iranian regime within weeks. But then again, we know that that the U.S. administration has to face public opinion in a way the Iranian regime doesn't. So that is the leverage. That's the strongest leverage of I would say that's even stronger than the Strait of Hormuz kind of leverage for the Iranian regime. They don't have to pay heed to its own public opinion in the same way. Then again, at the same time, Trump does not want to be seen to be losing. And the war is not going his way. And this Iran war is going to be a key part of his legacy. And that creates a very dangerous dynamic, because Iran may believe right now that Trump is politically constrained, but he might feel that he has to escalate to avoid looking weak and to bring this home as an eventual win. So now we are in a sort of chicken and egg race with both sides playing their cards. There is actually an interesting dark horse third factor. There's lots of Iranians are actually on Trump's side, and that card hasn't been played yet. And if that comes into play, it would change the dynamic directly. But we don't know if that's going to happen. So, to summarize this question, I think you can say that the US is the stronger actor, no doubt about that, but they are still far from in control.
Right. So US is far from full control. That's the word coming in. And you've pointed out the different kinds of leverages that both Iran and US hold. But reports do show that Iran will run out of oil storage capacity in, say, about 25 to 30 days. Now, if that does happen, what is going to happen to the supply disruptions that we're already seeing as far as the Asian economies are concerned?
Yeah, I mean, that will be a major problem for the Iranian regime, of course, and they will probably have to cut production costs, but that has problems in itself, because it's not, you can't turn on and off oil in the same way you can many other products. So that will weaken their hand in a sense. But then we are returning. That also comes back to the fact that if you are in a desperate situation, it might become even more dangerous in a way, because if even more cornered, you might play up some things that wouldn't happen otherwise. So there is so much great uncertainty about this in so many ways.
Right. And what about the current stalemate? What will that do to prices? Do you think it's going to go above that $140 per barrel mark?
Not at the moment, I don't think so, because the barrels lost, they don't motivate the price 120 even. So much of the pricing in 120, that is the fear of escalation, and certainly it's pricing in that this is going to go on longer than markets thought only a couple of weeks ago. So the fear factor, I would say that one is even greater, and the fear of escalation, and that will bring in the rest of the region. I think that is priced in already in the 120. So I think that there has to be something even greater now to bring it to 140. I think that is a propaganda point that might not have substance at the moment. Things can change, and then we have to have this discussion again. But at the moment, I don't think it will come so much further than 120, 125.
All right, so 100 and 125, that's the level that you're looking at. Right, like you pointed out, we will definitely have the discussion again when we have more developments. Thank you, Mr. Brolin, for joining us today on this broadcast.
Thank you.